We're gathered here today not just as organizers, activists, and advocates, or even for you all as members of the press. I want to name that we are also here as witnesses. Witnesses to a movement in Minnesota and in this country where peaceful protests is being targeted and treated as a crime, where the demand for accountability is met with retaliation, and where communities are asked to accept violence without truth and power without oversight. We are here because the killings, or rather I should say the murders, of Renee Good, of Alex Peretti, here in Minneapolis did not happen in silence. There were witnesses there. It happened in public, in front of neighbors, cameras, and communities who saw, recorded, and continue to remember. And today we stand to say that those memories matter, that what people witnessed matter, that our eyes, our voices, and our collective conscience matters. This press conference brings together a broader civil rights coalition to confront the political targeting of organizers, the unchecked expansion of the militarization of ICE here in Minnesota, and the criminalization of dissent under federal enforcement obligations. Today also marks the launch of year 2 of the nationwide Target Boycott, a campaign for corporate accountability and economic pressure co-founded to demand that companies do not profit while enabling state violence or the erosion of civil and human rights. You will hear today from leaders who have been on the front lines of this work and who are now themselves facing political retaliation for refusing to be silent. And up first, we have civil rights activist, leader, and attorney, Nekima Levy-Armstrong.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I am Nekima Levy-Armstrong, a civil rights attorney, an activist, the founder of the Racial Justice Network, as well as a former law professor. I stand before you today as someone who is facing political retaliation at the hands of the Trump administration for using my voice to speak truth to power and to challenge what I feel is a conflict of interest with regard to ICE pastor David Easterwood serving as both a pastor at City Church in St. Paul, as well as the acting director for the field office for ICE in the state of Minnesota. In that capacity, David Easterwood has condoned the conduct of ICE agents who have wreaked havoc upon the streets of Minneapolis, who have brutalized people, and who have murdered people, all while our government tells us to wait and be patient. Minnesotans have been extremely patient and have exercised restraint with regard to the level of violence, brutality, terrorism, arrests that have happened, violence against women, kidnapping of children, and on that our community has been forced to endure. We are here today to say we will not be silenced, we will not be intimidated, and we, the people, will continue to show up with our whistles and our voices as they bring guns and munitions to level against innocent people. Had Governor Walz listened to us weeks ago, following the killing of Renee Nicole Good, it is possible that Alex Peretti might still be alive today.
That part.
Black organizers who have been on the front lines for many years trying to hold our government and law enforcement accountable for unwarranted state-sanctioned violence know this all too well. The government will look the other way in the face of oppression, abuse, and police brutality. ICE is no different. This is not only an immigration fight. This is a fight for police accountability. This is a fight for racial justice. This is a fight for our constitutional rights. And we must not forget that. We call upon the media to stop bowing to empire every time they put out a spin from the White House. That is a part of the problem. When we had the city's church protests It was triumphant for the people because we took a stand by going directly to the power and saying, this cannot stand. You cannot serve two masters, because the whole foundation of the gospel message is to love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And Minnesotans have been loving our neighbors and putting our bodies on the line, while ICE has been attempting to destroy our neighbors. And so as we had a triumph for the people, what did the media do? The moment the White House came out saying that they were going to conduct a so-called investigation, that became the headline. And that is a way of bowing to empire and silencing the voices of the people. It's unacceptable and it's unconscionable, especially to see our hometown media publications that know exactly what is going on here bow to empire and make a headline about J.D. Vance coming to town. Who gives a damn if he comes to town if he is part of the empire that is destroying our community? We need to amplify the voices of the people who are out there in the freezing cold, day in and day out, making sure that Minnesota does not yield to fascism, authoritarianism, or tyranny. I stand before you today as someone who was arrested just 1 week ago, following statements from Kristi Noem and others that arrests were coming. A few of us, or at least 4 of us, went to stay at a local hotel just 8 minutes away from the federal courthouse in the event that arrest warrants were issued so that we could work with our attorneys to turn ourselves in. When we found out that arrests were imminent based on media reports, then what we did was reached out to our attorneys and we asked them to contact the U.S. Marshals and the U.S. Attorney's Office to see if arrest warrants had indeed been entered. My attorney, Jordan Kushner, specifically made those calls, and he did not get answers regarding arrest warrants being issued. What followed after that was the FBI conducting surveillance upon us. As a matter of fact, they are still probably conducting surveillance upon us. They came to the hotel where we were staying, apparently looking for us, surrounding the hotel, and even doing a stakeout in the room across the hall from me. At one point in the middle of the night, I opened the door to my hotel room. Well, I didn't open the door, but one of my friends opened the door to my hotel room to go to her room next door. As soon as she did, we saw a man run out of the hotel room across the hall from mine and started chasing her. And I closed the door and locked it because of the aggression that I saw and felt from that person, who turns out to be an FBI agent. There were multiple FBI agents in the room across the hall, and they tackled my friend in the hallway and were physically abusive towards her, manhandled her, bumped her head, and even caused a concussion. Why did they do this? Well, my suspicions at the time were correct, because they thought she was me. Even though I am several inches taller than my friend, they thought she was me, and they were attempting to manhandle her. Now, mind you, I am a brain tumor survivor, someone who has had neurosurgery to stay alive. And these goons were willing to tackle and attack me in the hallway, not saying freeze, not saying you're under arrest, but acting like they were on a football field with regard to the brutality that they exhibited towards another Black woman, again, thinking that it was me. That's absurd and it's unconscionable. And when I closed the door, I made sure to reach out to our attorneys and ask them to get to the hotel as soon as possible, because we were under attack. And we did not know what lengths those FBI agents would go to. It's really sad that the hotel compromised our safety by cooperating with federal agents at the time and allowing them to set up a room next door. Now think about the lengths that the FBI went to. Think about the lengths that Homeland Security went to. Think about the lengths that the White House went to try to capture nonviolent protesters at a church. Meanwhile, they have yet to conduct an investigation into the killing of Renee Good and the killing of Alex Present. As a matter of fact, what did they do after Renee Good was killed? They lied on her and claimed she was a domestic terrorist. Yep. The president of the United States lied on her and claimed that she tried to run over ICE agent Jonathan Ross. What did J.D. Vance do, an attorney like me? Misstated the law, claiming that federal agents had total immunity, and then tried to backtrack his statements after Alex Pretty was killed. Yet, here we are, Black women, nonviolent. Our only weapons are voices, being treated like Hannibal Lecter, being treated like a mass murderer. Tell me, where is the justice in that? And media, you have a responsibility, as I said before, because you all participate in spinning headlines and turning us into criminals. Even though we are standing up for the poor, we're standing up for the vulnerable, we are standing up for the truth. Now let's talk about what happened when we got into the federal courthouse. So upon our arrest, let me backtrack. Upon our arrest, you saw that I was calm, cool, and collected when talking to the FBI. I asked them specifically, why are you recording? And the response was, oh, it's not going on Twitter or anything. They asked me to record, which I thought was really odd. Thankfully, there were people on our side who were also recording, and the world got to see the truth following the White House putting out a distorted image of me, crying and hysterical, exaggerating my features, and darkening my skin.
Shame.
That is what they did to O.J. Simpson, darken his skin. So this is a pattern. This is a part of caricaturizing Black people and trying to make people afraid by saying this is what will happen to you when you stand up against a corrupt, fascist, and authoritarian government.
That part.
But you all see that I was not afraid. I did not back down. I stood in the spirit of my ancestors and Black women who for centuries have held it down despite state-sanctioned terroristic violence against us. So after that happened, once I was actually handcuffed and taken into custody, we got into the federal building, and there were marshals who were shocked that we were being arrested for protesting. They could not believe it, and they said so. When we got into court, as you can see, the magistrate judge ordered that Chantel Allen and I be released that same day. And the judge the magistrate wound up granting a request from federal prosecutors to give them a 1-hour stay in order for them to contest our detainment. In other words, they wanted to keep us in jail, even though the magistrate said that we could be released. So the judge said, you have 1 hour to submit your brief. And there was supposed to be a hearing that afternoon. But you know what happened at the federal courthouse? Because we had over 150 supporters from the community who showed up, they closed the federal courthouse early. And 8 minutes after that 1 hour stay, they transported Chantel Allen and I into a vehicle by the U.S. Marshals and took us to the Sherburne County Jail. But they didn't just take us to the Sherburne County Jail. They used 3 different sets of restraints on us as if we were hardened criminals and murderers. We had shackles on our ankles. We had belly chains around our waist, and we had handcuffs with bars in the middle. As someone who majored in African American studies, I can tell you that that is the closest I ever felt to slavery in my life. Being shackled as if I was a slave. It is unacceptable and unconscionable, but it's on brand for a White House that specializes in cruelty, brutality, lies, and deception. Once we got to the Sherburne County Jail, we were strip searched. We were placed in jail uniforms. We were locked in cells side by side. And I'm not even going to talk about what they tried to feed us that looked like mystery meat. That makes me sad for the people who are currently incarcerated and not even being fed decently for their survival. I didn't want to even use the restroom in my cell. Why? Because there's a camera watching your every move. This is in spite of going through x-ray machines and being strip searched where they know you have no contraband. And yet still there's a camera in your room watching you with nothing else in there but a bed on cement and a metal toilet that doubles as a water fountain. So again, this was intentional on the part of the White House, on the part of the Department of Homeland Security, that allows murderers to go free. And as I said before, had our governor listened, when we said use your power to arrest the officer who killed Renee Good, he postured in front of the cameras and made excuses. And now we have the execution of Alex Preddy on our hands. Now, what did you all witness? What looked like a gang initiation or a beating. Let's call it what it is. I know the media says, oh, Alex Preddy died as a result of an immigration crackdown. That's too mild for what we are dealing with here. It is fascism and it is authoritarianism and it is brutality and an execution of an innocent person right in front of our eyes. If any of us had done that, we would have been demonized. We would have been under the jail. But what did the White House do? They allowed those murderers to escape from the state of Minnesota. Yep. And then after the governor had a phone call with the president, he tried to appease the people by talking about the tone shifting. That's not enough. Who gives a damn if the president's tone shifts, if we still have an ICE occupation here in the state of Minnesota? They should have been arrested. They still should be arrested, and there needs to be accountability. Thank you.
Something that comes to mind for me is you need to not have been alive or been leaders during the civil rights movement to know or to think or to wonder what side of justice they would have been on at that time. Their actions in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, this month alone is a reflection of what side they would have been on in justice. Next, I would like to bring up the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Minneapolis and St. Paul Public School board member, Chantel Allen.
It's Black Lives Matter Twin Cities, and I'm also part of the National Black Lives Matter Grassroots Organization. Nikema said it best about everything kind of we went through. One thing she left out is in the transport, they didn't handcuff, they didn't put a seatbelt on us. So they had us shackled, and then our arms were chained to our stomach and our feet are chained together. And we're in the back of this ride, and they didn't give us a seatbelt, and they were just driving reckless like they were trying to Freddie Gray us. I just want to add to that because that's the kind of terror that they're putting on our communities right now. I always have to ask as a school board member, how are the children? We keep talking about our neighbors. We keep talking about, community and adults and what's happening to protesters, but our children are witnessing this level of terror right in our city right now. Our children are going to online learning right now just to avoid being exposed to this terror. And if you think because your child is a citizen, they don't recognize what's happening, you're wrong, because these conversations are happening on the playground. Their friends are being taken. Their friends' parents are being taken. Their teachers are being taken. Their mentors are being taken. The people that they love are being just stolen away from here, and all they see is the violence attached to it. What is this going to do for our society in 20 years? How are our children going to feel about our government, about our people in 20 years after they're seeing all of this during their foundational years? That concerns me. A week before all of this went down, we had thousands of kids walk out of school to say, take a stand. Arrest Jonathan Ross. Do something. We're afraid. We're down 500 kids in our school district right now of children who are just afraid to come to school. We're projected to have another 400 next year. That's 3 schools worth of children. We're not talking about a few absence and we're going to be able to just keep functioning. We're talking 3 schools worth of children who don't even want to come to school because they're afraid to stand at the bus stop. Children who are afraid to go to the corner store, to their sports games, to the things that they love the most. They're being confined in their houses. When, as a society, are we going to say, let's protect the children?
That's right.
Let's protect the children. Let's do everything in our might to protect the children. And I'm here to say, I'm wanting to do everything in my might to protect all of these children in the Twin Cities. They should not be exposed to this. And we need serious accountability right now. And we need ICE out of our city so that we can go back to safety and we can start the healing process so that this doesn't continue to trickle on for the next 50 years. I'm Chantel Allen again. Thank you all for being here. And this has been a horribly traumatic experience for me and my family, for Nekima and her family. But it is a horribly traumatic experience for our small children, y'all. Pay attention to our children.
Next up, we have the Executive Director on the Council on American and Islamic Relations here in Minnesota, Jalan Hussein.
First and foremost, I want to just acknowledge the incredible leadership, the incredible gift that Minnesota has in these two incredible leaders, in Dr. and Reverend and Professor Nekima Levy-Armstrong, yes, and Chantel Allen, someone who not only is on the streets, but takes deep passion in supporting our children and our youth. We are indebted, Minnesota is, the whole country is, for your steadfast, for your leadership, for continuing to stand up. America, we find ourselves once again in the middle of a historical moment. What most will not know, but I must remind, is that 6 years ago in Minnesota, while the whole nation faced the pandemic of a COVID pandemic, we in Minnesota were tasked to take care and remind the nation of the oldest pandemic, the pandemic of targeting Black and brown people in this country. Yeah. We faced the murder of George Floyd, yes, and George Floyd is the face and the name of the countless people in this country who have faced the brutality of police brutality in all over America. Minnesotans were woken up in May of 2025 to the horrors of a man crying for his mother, May of 2020. The cries for his mother. And he moved us in Minnesota in ways Minnesotans did not expect. But that movement didn't happen just in Minnesota, it happened globally. And in this moment, we find ourselves once again, an administration targeting our state, not knowing that Minnesotans have already been dealing with a moment like this. When the cameras left and everyone left, we still carried the legacy of fighting for justice for George Floyd. It never left us. And for many Minnesotans, once again, we find ourselves in a moment where government, state-sanctioned violence is being targeted against innocent people. The same people here in Minnesota are once again standing up and showing the rest of the country what it's like to fight for justice, what it's like to fight for our neighbors. And this president, this administration did not know the resiliency of our state, and they are meeting it head on today. When we say ICE out of Minnesota, we do not mean ICE out to go somewhere else. We are showing the nation that a warm heart on a cold corner and a whistle and a people who wake up every morning taking care of their neighbors will defeat any ICE operation anywhere in America. Anywhere in America. And for those who still believe in the lies, I want you to know that we are in a moment where this administration and those who support are attacking the idea of truth. But for those who stand for truth, will know that in this moment, that we are going to win. They lied about the murder of Renee Good. They lied about the murder of Alex Freddie. They lied about the murder of Keith Porter. They lied about the murder of so many others. But those lies were so big that the entire country could not hold on to these lies. And they are now in a moment where the Americans have to decide, are you on the side of right and justice, or are you on the side of failure and falsehood? And I know for sure the country is choosing the side of moral clarity and justice. I know there are institutions in this country that are afraid to say standing up peacefully and protesting is a wrong thing. But Minnesotans came out just a week ago in the coldest of our days. We knew how to put on the right socks and the right shoes, and we knew how to come together. And we also knew how to see each other, because we have done that in the middle of a pandemic. We showed up on those streets in the middle of a pandemic where we wore masks, but we were still together. And in the coldest days, we have stood up in this moment. But I want to take you to how Minnesotans are leading the nation. After Target, out of nowhere, decided that they were going to be the leaders of diversity and inclusion. And they did. They profited off of that. They got us all into their stores. They brought our products into their stores. They showed that they were going to do something, but we knew that the billions that they promised, none of that actually happened. And for the first time, before even Trump even put out the damn press release, they were the first ones to turn back on their neighbors, to turn back on George Floyd and the promises made by so many Minnesotans. They were the first ones to turn back and look straight at us and say that they do not care. But guess what? Here in Minnesota, by the same leaders that you're seeing right here, Dr. Lakima Levy-Armstrong and Monique Colors Doty and myself started and launched the national Target Boycott. They said that we couldn't do it. They said that we were asking for a lot. But in this past year, the country has responded. Women across all of America decided that they are going to find diapers somewhere else. They're going to find milk somewhere else. They're going to use dollar diplomacy to showcase that diversity and inclusion. We are not going back. We're only moving forward. And any company that signals that we're moving back is a company that will go back to the times when they didn't exist. And for this past year, not only did we see less people shopping at Target, but we have seen Target not recover from the decline of their stocks. In fact, Target at this moment, as I speak to you, is a no-buy stocks. Anyone who buys a Target stock is a fool in today's society. But why am I talking about this one-year anniversary in this moment? Because for those who did not believe that Target would do such a thing, turn back against its neighbors, became the front lines of the economic justice that ICE was doing to us. Not only did the Target parking lots become safe haven for ICE agents, we saw Bovino walk inside Target as he owned Target. And for many people, they woke up to the idea that Target is involved. They have been involved from the beginning. They refused to stand up for the people, and it's the people who took their purses back and decided to shop somewhere else. We are asking today for the Americans and others across this country to ask, what can we do? It is time to stand up for who you are. It is time to stand up for companies that care about you. Companies who refuse to quote to this president, refuse to acknowledge the fact that this moment is a moment for Americans, a moment for all of us. And that is why we're encouraging every person to stand firm and commit to standing up and stand for this boycott. We're asking for the moms and the dads and the people across this country. Target is the front line. Target is the company that we need to put pressure on. And for the Target corporations, we have already heard from your customers, but most importantly, we even heard from your staff, that it's chaos inside Target, that many people in senior positions are leaving, and the company is spinning. And we're going to learn about the fourth quarter in just a few weeks, and it will not be good because the people in this moment are standing up. And that is the embodiment of the best thing. And I'll end with this by saying, it's not just the Target boycott. It is the Target boycott. Stand up for the Target boycott. Don't make it a side project. Make it the issue. Stand up for your neighbors. And in this moment, when we teach these companies that the power of the people organized can always win, we can win. And to all of Minnesotans who has saw the charade of this government, the charade, that they would arrest peaceful protesters faster than arresting those who murdered Renee Good and Alex Peretti is a sign and a testament that what is happening to us has nothing to do with justice, nothing to do with that. And we know for sure that justice delayed is justice denied. They are denying our justice. They are denying the justice for Renee Good and Alex Preddy. But I know these moments have come before where governments and leaders think that they're above the law, they're not accountable to the American people. I believe in the spirit of the American people. I believe in the Minnesotans from all across this state who are standing up, showing what it's like to be in a great America. We are asking for both state officials as well as Hennepin County and others to bring state charges to the murders of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. We should know by now who shot and killed Alex Preddy. We don't need to know that they've been off duty. We need to know that they're arrested for the murder that they committed on broad daylight. America and Minnesota, this moment will pass, and we will be better for it. But I ask you the question that maybe Renee or Alex may ask. If I am killed in the broad daylight, what did you do to safeguard yourself, your neighbor, from the same type of target? In this moment, we in Minnesota will de-ice. And for this moment on, we will not allow ICE to operate anywhere else in America because the great people of Minnesota were targeted, assaulted, overwhelmed, occupied. But we came up with our little tater-tot hot dish and cool whatever we are and passive aggressiveness, and we showed the rest of the country that warm hearts in Minnesota can defeat ICE. And we will melt ICE here, just like we melted Bovino. And it is over here in Minnesota. Stand with us and be like a Minnesotan, because justice delayed is justice denied is justice delayed. And in this moment, we ask every single person to demand justice by any means necessary.
Thank you so much, Jalal Hussein. Next, we have another co-founder of the nationwide Target Boycott that was founded here in Minnesota, Monique Colors. Dorothy.
If there's one thing that I want the people of America to understand, if they're not here to see it, know that here in Minnesota, we hold the line.
Yes.
This is nothing new to us, holding the line.
Listen.
It's just gotten larger with ICE. And that's why we can come out and be so damn good at it.
Yes.
In Minnesota, we've been holding the line, standing in solidarity for all oppressed people here and across the country, across the globe, across the planet. We've been standing for a free Palestine. We've been standing for a free Congo. We've been standing for the people of South America. We've been telling the truth for those voices that have been silenced. So we hold the line in Minnesota. This is nothing new. Now it's grown. And we have even more people coming out because still in Minnesota, we have people who are still compassionate. We have people who love their neighbors. We have people who will not sit by and idly listen to whistles being blown and their neighbors being dragged out of their house by ICE. We have people who are compassionate enough to put on their outfits to stand outside in the cold and make sure that the children are getting in the school safe and getting picked up from school safely. We have compassionate people, and that's what it takes to hold the line. So while we go through these tragedies here and families getting separated and students getting arrested, like last night with the 50 to 70 students arrested on campus at a noise demonstration at the U of M, I believe Masters Hotel, Graduate Hotel. Those students held the line. Follow Students for a Democratic Society, how you can support them, make those calls in. And I'm standing here wearing a Free Mahdi Ali shirt. We hold the line for Mahdi Ali, who Target was actually involved in his wrongful conviction. One thing about Target that many people don't know is that Target has a crime lab. And as part of that crime lab, they offer assistance to law enforcement across the country. And it was a so-called Target expert that made false testimony against Mahdi Ali, a 16-year-old high school student who happened to skip school that day. And he was charged with murder. He's in his 30s now. And part of this problem also with Target goes to Amy Klobuchar, who as Hennepin County prosecutor increased the mass incarceration rate for Black and brown boys by 600%. And it was funded by Target Corporation. as she was paid by her prosecutions and convictions. It is estimated there are still 200 Black men who went in maybe as even boys, who are still wrongfully incarcerated. And we're calling for Target and Amy Klobuchar to take accountability for their actions. As Amy Klobuchar has thrown her name into the race for governor, she must remember that we are those who stood up and shut down her home campaign when she ran for the president in that race. And we have not forgotten the harm that she has caused to our people and our community. So when we see Democrats harming our people, we see Republicans harming our people, we have to remember that Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin, that capitalists will put profit before people.
Yeah.
So we are fighting for a new America, a new way of life, a way that accepts diversity, equity, inclusion, a way that values all lives and all people, where our neighbors are protected and safe, where we are not exposed to wrongful prosecutions in this country. We stand for a true and just America, for a better America. All power to the people.
Thank you so much. Something that comes to mind for me is that the state and the country gave it down when two white people were killed. If any, I believe, as a rising imam, a theological studies student, an activist here in the state, that if anyone in this state were killed that looked like me or the people behind me, the state of the country still wouldn't give it down. You know how we know? Who was killed before Renee Good and Alex Freddie?
Randall Castile, Dante Rice, George Floyd, Sonya Mack.
Black and brown. Black and brown. Black and brown. White folks in this state and this country didn't give it down until two white people were killed. Trump's base didn't give it down that even though Alex Freddie, had a lawful, illegal firearm on him that he did not use despite what they say, still didn't give it down. However, they did give it down that Kyle, he-double, trigger-finger, Rittenhouse was trying to protect his community and right behind him. Shame. 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 Next, we have Michelle Gross to speak to us from the Communities Against Police Brutality. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Gross, MICHELLEGROSS, and I am president of Communities United Against Police Brutality. Folks, the fix is in. I'm trying to set my face. There we go. Is that a little better? Okay, got it. Y'all, the fix is in. Yesterday, 16 constitutional observers who had been exercising their First Amendment protected rights by using whistles and cell phones to videotape ICE agents were charged with, quote, interference with federal agents. Pam Bondi has promised more such charges. Then last night, 67 protesters were pepper sprayed and arrested by University of Minnesota police on charges of, quote, unlawful assembly for protesting the lodging of ICE agents at the Graduate Hotel. Meanwhile, we are still working to defend 3 people who have been charged for exposing that the regional director of ICE is a pastor at a church. Yet not a single ICE agent has been arrested. These latest arrests appear to be the result of a deal with the devil that our public officials are making behind the scenes with Tom Homan. Yet no such deal seems to have been made for the federal government to turn over the murders of Renee Good and Alex Freddie.
That part.
When members of the Trump administration showed up on our doorstep, the first thing our elected officials should have said is, turn over the killers and then we'll talk.
That's right.
So now, while the community protects and defends each other with whistles, cell phones, and grocery deliveries, our local law enforcement has been gifted to ICE as an extension of their assault on the community, apparently in exchange for getting a few of their federal demons off our streets. Members of this community have won the hearts and minds of the people across this country with our love, our generosity, and our courage. People everywhere have joined with our demand for ICE out. But once again, the elected officials have found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
That part.
basically trapping us in the middle. Let's be clear. We will continue to stand with our neighbors. We will continue to defend our neighbors, and we will continue to do what we need to do, no matter what deal our elected officials make. Walz, Fry, and the rest need to knock off these compromises. Our demands are clear. Turn over the cops that murdered Renee and Alex. Drop the charges on all protesters. And finally, get the hell out of Minnesota.
Yes.
Thank you.
Emphasis on the last part. Yeah. On all of it, right? All right. Next, we have activist and leader William Kelly speaking to us now.
Last time I checked, the Department of Homeland Security was created to fight terrorism, to protect New Yorkers and other Americans from a threat. But then why did 1 week ago a Homeland Security agent put an M4 in my face? Not trained, he didn't have it shouldered properly. He was holding it with one hand, but he came out as I peacefully surrendered myself. And he put it in my face with no training, with anger. They dragged me back into a cell and put me in chains, as people have spoken before me have mentioned. And they mocked me. They took pictures of me like I was some catch of the day, like I was the terrorist that they captured in Al-Qaeda. I'm a veteran. I'm an activist. I'm a man of peace, standing for the dignity of all Americans, of all humans. Why am I being persecuted for this? Make it make sense. Americans, I ask that you remember the Constitution. You remember that this nation was founded on liberty for all. All people are created equal. So remember this, Americans. Get off your couches. Join in solidarity with your Black, Latino, and immigrant communities, because you have more in common with them than you do the billionaires. And do it peacefully. We have the First Amendment for a reason. That's all I've ever done, is raise my voice in the name of the Constitution, in the name of humanity. So please get in the streets now, Americans, and do not let them silence our voice. Do not go quietly into that night. All power to the people. All power to the people.
Thank you. And then lastly, we have attorney Vernon Krishner.
We're in the heat of struggle against fascism here.
Yeah.
Fascist takeover by the Trump regime. Fascist takeover by the fascist Trump regime. These the prosecutions that brought us here, the people who were involved in a nonviolent protest that happened to be at a church, that is fascism. This is central to the First Amendment, that people have a right to protest. This was a peaceful event. Free speech can make people uncomfortable, and yet the federal government has totally distorted the case and made it look like there was some kind of persecution of people for their religious beliefs, which has nothing to do with reality. This is the kind of Orwellian tactics that a fascist regime engages in, where they make up stories that clearly counter to reality about their agents who murder people in the street. And they make up their narratives about people that they choose to persecute who cause no harm, but are merely trying to resist the oppression. So the law that they're charged under is one that was passed to protect, free Black people, free Black slaves, prevent their constitutional rights from being violated. And in this huge distortion, they've turned this law around after deciding that they weren't going to enforce these laws for the purposes, have now used it opportunistically to actually go after people who dissent from the fascist Trump regime and make it look like they're violating other people's constitutional rights, when in fact all they're doing is protesting against the pastor of this church, whose day job is to administer or preside over the fascist stormtroopers in the state of Minnesota. And so they're being, make no mistake, they're being blatantly persecuted for taking a political stand against the government. So if you go and challenge someone in a position of authority in government, next thing you know, you're being prosecuted for a federal felony. based on an invented story, a really insidious kind of story that makes it out like the people who are protecting constitutional rights are actually trying to depriving other people of constitutional rights. Now we're seeing the same thing with the recent massive arrests of people who were arrested at ICE protests. Now, most of the people arrested were victims of ICE brutality, and the agents made up stories about them assaulting or obstructing ICE and charged them with federal felonies. Some people were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. They happened to be there and they were picked out randomly by ICE. There were people who were racially profiled. One of my clients was pulled over by ICE and they busted into his car. He was Native American. Who has more of a right to be here and is more native to this country than someone who's Native American? They claimed that they thought he was an Ecuadorian that they were looking for, which kind of also underscores the fundamental racism behind what this is all about. It is a war on people of color, and it's a war on any white people who dare to come to their defense. Now, it's all political. We heard Dr. Nakima Levy-Armstrong talk about how the ICE Homeland Security agent who arrested her filmed the arrest on his mobile phone. Filmed her, recorded her being handcuffed, and recorded her being taken away. Now, this is totally unprofessional. Correct. No law enforcement does anything like that. They have body cams, so to actually make a point of filming their action on a cell phone, that's unheard of, completely unprofessional. Now, I was there and told her, I was just instructed to do this. It's not going to go on Twitter or anything. And sure enough, Kristen Noem posted on her Twitter, video, as using her as a trophy. It shows the political motivation. And of course, after that, the White House took an image and turned it around and totally defamed her, invented a completely different narrative, making it out like she was crying and made her out to be blacker. So this is fundamentally racist. It's fundamentally fascist, where you have a regime that invents their own reality, literally invented their own reality, actually turning around the picture of someone to make it look like something totally different from what happened. So it's a stunt. It's for propaganda purposes. It's for creating a narrative, for creating reality. And that continued yesterday with the mass arrests. So let me give people some background on the mass arrests yesterday, when we had 16 people who appeared in federal court. They were looking for 22. Homeland Security put out a communication to some attorneys who were involved, gave them a list of 22 people, said, you have to report to turn yourself in by tomorrow being yesterday. We're going to go out and get you. Of course, you can imagine the fear, given how violent these federal agents are, of them coming to your home and busting down your door. So 16 people who the attorneys could communicate with went and turned themselves in the next morning. The attorney who was involved in negotiating it, she was promised, we're just trying to make this orderly. We're not going to make a public spectacle out of it. Well, know what they did? They took cell phone recordings of every person who turned themselves in and put it on Twitter again. And Bondi posted it on Twitter. So now you're innocent until proven guilty in the system. The government doesn't flash photos of people being arrested like trophies. They have an obligation to not invade their privacy, to not make it out like they're criminals until it's been proven so. And in this case, it'll be proven otherwise. So again, this is completely unprofessional. It's against all professional ethics of what are the standards in the criminal and justice system. And again, just like with Nakima Levy-Pounds and Chantel Allen, they've used these arrests as trophies. It has nothing to do whatsoever with enforcement of the law. This is just fascist repression, where they're going after dissident people who are politically dissenting, creating their own reality, making up stories. And as has been discussed in so much depth, protecting the murderers who are murdering on their behalf. It is essential at this point to resist in every way possible, because they are on the verge of losing, and that's because the population of Minnesota has decided they're not going to accept it. You can't oppress a population unless they refuse to acquiesce. And they cannot impose fascism unless people cooperate. And that's, and I think this is getting out of a legal end, but it was brought up by Michelle Gross before me that it's so essential that the elected officials not give in and compromise. So it does not help us when Tim Wall says, well, we had a productive conversation.
That's right.
With another fascist who's replaced Tom Holman, who accepted a cash payment of $50,000 for favor of the Trump administration, who's one of the architects of the oppression of immigrants, the horrible person. And then you can't negotiate with this. Trump says, well, we'll take the people after you cooperate. There's no cooperation.
Correct.
They have to get out. There's no, we cannot sacrifice any immigrants here for our peace. Because not only can't we throw anyone under the bus because it's completely wrong for them, but we're also going to be throwing ourselves under the bus, because this fascist regime is going to stop at nothing. Anything you give them, they're going to take more. Right. So we've got to fight these criminal prosecutions. We've got to do everything we can to mess up ICE's operations, not cooperate them in any way, because the only thing that they can understand is defeat. Anything that you give them, they're going to portray as victory, and they're going to do more, and they're going to keep oppressing us. So we all have to demand that Walls and Fry, that they not give in. I mean, I'm not a fan of Fry, but when he said we don't cooperate with them, we don't enforce immigration laws, and he was firm about that, that was the right thing. There's no way that it's in any way acceptable for the state or the local authorities to in any way help the feds with their mass deportation of immigrants, returning immigrants in. We need to protect everyone in this community against this fascist occupation until that occupation ends. Thank you.
I just wanted to bring up, because I was so focused on the kids, but when I was in jail, kind of leaning on what Jordan was talking about, they kept coming back to my cell and reshackling me all the way up so that they could take me out and take these photo shoots with different ICE agents. So it was like a new group would come in, and then they would come pull me out, reshackle me all over again so that they could take more photo shoots. It was almost like they were taking pictures so that they can send them somewhere to say, hey, we got them. Right. And that's what it felt like to me. And that happened to me like 3 or 4 different times with different groups of ICE agents that just came in, federal agents. I just wanted to put that on.
We'll take questions at this time. Jolly.
Question is, you had an AI altered image spread of you from the White House. All 3 of you who were arrested had your names dragged across Kristi Noem's and Pam Bondi's social media. My question is, how has been the fallout of that since your arrest? How has it affected your personal life? I know that many of you had to get security. You haven't been able to go to work. What's been the fallout of this online social media, exposure from the administration?
Thank you for that question, Jolly. There has been a lot of fallout with regard to our personal safety being jeopardized. Now think about this. These are people who claim to be standing up.
Supposedly, these are people defending a church.
A nonviolent protest.
I would expect that if City's church does not agree with this behavior, that they would speak up and say that this is not in alignment with the Christianity that we practice. Because it's certainly not in alignment with the Christianity that I practice and the God that I know, who does not depend on hate, but focuses on love. And we are seeing an absence of love with regard to the way that we are being treated. And the White House and the president and Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi and J.D. Vance are all helping to foment that hate against nonviolent, peaceful protesters. They represent the federal government, which again is supposed to be the greatest superpower in the world. And yet they are leveraging their power against nonviolent, peaceful protesters while failing to hold executioners accountable for their actions. So all of us have been impacted in many ways. Our families have been impacted. But guess what? The God I serve is a protector. The God I serve is a defender. The God I serve is the God of truth, justice, and righteousness. And that's how we can continue to stand on our beliefs in spite of what they try to throw our way.
Yeah, I mean, it goes beyond just my family. I mean, our school board is also being threatened, and our schools are in high alert right now because of this. And, you know, it's just, like Nikema said, it's so crazy to me that people who are, you know, saying that they're Christian and defending the church, and they're sending off these, I'm getting death threats, I'm getting, you know, bad phone calls, emails. It's happening in every direction of my life. And it's like, are we here for God? Are we here for love? Do you want to, if you feel like we violated that in that moment, why wouldn't you want to teach us more love? In that moment. I am too a Christian. I believe in God, and I know that our God is a powerful God, and like Nikema said, he is a protector, and he is a man of justice. And I will continue to stand with God, continue to walk with him, because I know that he will be able to change their hearts and minds into righteousness.
My cell phone was confiscated along with Chantel Allen's. And we do not know why. We have not gotten our cell phones back, but we know that the FBI agents were desperate to get into our cell phones, which is an abomination as far as I'm concerned and an infringement upon our privacy and security.
That part.
Yeah.
So we filed a motion to the court that's pending when we, asked the court to order the federal government to return the cell phone. Return the king's cell phone. Well, they were desperate to get that cell phone. After they completed the arrest of Levy Armstrong and Chantel Allen, they actually followed, the group of Homeland Security agents followed and stopped one of the attorneys who was on the scene in a vehicle, threatened to arrest her, thinking that she had took the cell phone with her. He said, "You're hiding evidence, we're going to arrest you." He let her go. Then I got a phone call from a Homeland Security agent saying, "Demand that you turn over Nikema Levy Armstrong's cell phone, right away." So I'm not giving anyone up any property unless there's a court order. He said, "We'll get a court order." And I saw in court a little bit later, it goes, "Oh, we found the cell phone, we have it." So they're desperate to get that cell phone. And, the reason is, and it's in my motion, it's filed with the court, is because there's not going to be any meaningful evidence of a crime with this nonviolent protest in the church. There's already tons of video of what happened. Anyone can look at it, see that it was a nonviolent protest that was protected under the First Amendment. But they want to get all the information from the cell phone. They want to find out all her connections, all her political activities, all her connections, so they can harass them. It's documented on the White House's website where they have this so-called national security memo that they published some months ago, where they're going after this, what they call domestic terrorist network, using all the legal means they can. And know how they define a domestic terrorist? Anti-Christian, criticizing the United States. Basically anything that's against the Trump regime is defined as a domestic terrorism. And, of course, you saw that when they labeled both the people murdered on the streets of Minneapolis domestic terrorists. And these were completely law-abiding people. They labeled them domestic terrorists. So again, this kind of fascist Orwellian terminology anyone who's against the regime is a domestic terrorist and they're subject to persecution. So they want, I'm glad someone asked about the phone. They want that phone so they can get all the information. They can persecute as many other people who are involved in resistance as possible. We're waiting for the court to decide on that motion. Usually the government kind of has liberty to take cell phones when there's arrest. It's pretty routine for them to extract all the data from them at this point. That can't be allowed to happen here because they're not searching for evidence of a crime. They're looking to expand their rich cut in the persecution and the persecutions.
That's fine. Jordan and real quick, when you guys were trying to turn yourself in, where do you turn yourself in if you want to turn yourself in when a federal government's making these comments on Facebook? And talk about that phone call that you had with the DOJ. What kind of arrangement was there? Was there an arrangement for Nikema and the others who were under suspicion? What options were there for those to go to the courthouse, the federal courthouse, which you guys stayed at?
I think your last part kind of answered the original question, which is normally if you want to turn yourself in, there's a federal warrant, you go to the courthouse, the U.S. Marshal's office, and you turn yourself in. That's what we were trying to do here, instead of having a violent arrest at the hotel. We heard about the story about how they violently arrested or tackled her and attacked her in the hall because they thought she was Nikema. You can imagine how terrifying it was. Now, what is ICE going to do to us? So we had a group of legal people, attorneys, went to the hotel early that morning to try and arrange for Nikema. We didn't know that there was a warrant for Chantel Allen's arrest, so we tried to negotiate a situation where Nikema could go to the courthouse and voluntarily turn herself in. So we called different agents. Eventually, they had Dan Rosen call the U.S. attorney from the District of Minnesota. He called me to discuss, the surrender. And so I gave my proposal, which is we can take her down to the federal courthouse in Minneapolis. It's 5 or 6 blocks. She can go to the marshal's office and turn herself in there and don't have to have any incident, no circus, no nothing. He agreed. He said, yeah, we agree to that. That's very reasonable. Let me just talk to my people and call you back in a little bit so I can give you the exact logistics. So he calls me back and says, oh, no, we can't do it that way. We have to arrest her at the hotel. And,
it's for certain photo op.
Exactly, because they wanted the photo op.
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with justice, nothing to do with public safety. It was all about their pursuing their political goals, putting their propaganda on air, violating leaving Armstrong's privacy, violating her right to due process, violating everything. So Dan Rosen was taking orders from the fascists in Washington, D.C. He was, at first he was acting like a reasonable person, but when it came down to it, he was being a loyal servant for the fascist empire. He shouldn't have any credibility in Minnesota because of what he's doing.
Dan Bolston, North Carolina. With regards to the perp walk, what are your plans as far as the defamation suit?
Well, we're looking into that. There's other legal counsel who's looking into civil remedies. And in the criminal case, we will be bringing this as one of our multiple grounds for a motion to dismiss the violations of the due process rights for the people involved in this case.
Dr. Nikema, during the time when you guys was being questioned,
Can you speak up?
sorry, you guys were in the courtroom when they didn't have any warrant. What did you think about that? Have you ever seen anything like that in your profession before?
No, it just shows the lack of professionalism of the federal government at this time. I know that people normally trust in the federal government, but you have heard their lies, their manipulations, the fact that they would put out a distorted image of me. These people have no shame, no morals, and no ethics. We're not dealing with the traditional federal government. We're dealing with evil.
That's right.
That's why we have to use our voices and take a stand. And so in court, multiple times, the magistrate asked for the arrest warrants before we finally saw them. That was the first time I even saw my arrest warrant. And Chantel Allen as well.
So it shows you what we're dealing with here. And that's why I'm reminding the press to stop legitimizing a lying, fascist, authoritarian federal government and downplaying the truth.
That part.
We're the ones who are interrogated as if we're doing something wrong when we are standing up for the people and trying to prevent our country from sliding further into authoritarianism. People are asking me about how long have I been a reverend? How long have I been a preacher? Well, you need to be looking into City's Church and their connection of Pete Hegseth and the powers in Washington. Ask them about their theology. Are they recruiting ICE agents in the church? We don't know. But we went to try to ask these questions and figure out, how are we dealing with this conflict of interest? How is this Christianity? And what were we met with? Handcuffs, shackles, criminalization, and abuse.
Yep. To follow up,
Real quick, I want to say that I consistently asked for a warrant. When I finally got to the federal building, a guy came with his phone and he scrolled really fast and he pulled up Nakima's warrant. And he said, here it is. And I said, I'm not Nakima. They said, we definitely have a warrant for you. And so then they kept scrambling around and they brought a piece of paper that had my name on it. It looked kind of like a warrant, but it didn't say what I was charged with or anything like that. I said, this doesn't even say what I'm charged with or what I'm, what it is. So I never really saw the actual warrant until we got in court and the judge demanded to have it.
to follow up with the cell phone confiscation.
No, we did what needed to be done. You see that we're unapologetic. People need to speak up. We cannot be silent, sitting on the sidelines. No one is coming to save us. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Period.
To follow up on the cell phone confiscation, Mr. Kelly, my understanding that the day after you were released, they came looking for your cell phone through a search warrant.
So I woke up the morning after I was released. I woke up to a phone call at about 6:15 a.m. while also hearing whistles outside my residence that I was currently staying at. I go out and I look out the window and there's HSI agents at the back door of my neighbor's house. Upon answering the phone call, I hear them say, he's in there, we got him. And they barged into my neighbor's house, even though I had been in court the day before and gave them my address.
That's embarrassing.
They barged into my neighbor's house with guns drawn just as they came to me. I'm a peaceful protester, but they barged into my neighbor's house with assault weapons. Where are we at, America? Where is our liberty? Where is our freedom? Remember the Constitution. Stand for the Constitution before it's too late, please.
And they were looking for your cell phone, correct?
I believe they were looking for my cell phone. They had a warrant signed by a judge, but it did not say what they were actually looking for.
So to bring it back to the murders and to throw the federal government out of it, what is the state and local, like, do they have jurisdiction to issue subpoenas, to start investigations, to arrest people?
Yes, they do.
Can you clarify where that is, please?
Yeah, they can, given this, the state can enforce any criminal violation that happens in the state of Minnesota.
Even if the federal government says no?
County. So here's how, it does get more complicated. They can arrest someone and charge them with a crime, even if they work for the federal government. At that point, the federal government could say, federal supremacy, they're doing their job, the state doesn't have jurisdiction. They would take the case to federal court, and the federal court would decide whether it's appropriate for the state to prosecute or not. That would be a legal battle. But you can't have that battle unless they arrest the people in the first place. Play out. Let me just go back to the warrant. There was a reason that they wouldn't share the warrant, and that's because once we got the warrant, the magistrate demanded they turn over the warrant, and he had a reason because he had scratched out one of the charges and said no probable cause for that charge. So, they were charged with conspiracy to violate civil rights. There was also a charge for violation of what they call the PACE Act, and he found that there was no probable cause.
Wow.
They didn't want us to, didn't want us to find that out.
Wow.
So just to follow up on my question, is there any indication that our state and local officials are following up on their ability to arrest people and conduct a real investigation?
You know that, I just see in the press Keith Ellison's assurances that they're conducting a thorough investigation, and I guess it's gonna remain to be seen. Because people have pointed out that if there was video of anyone else shooting someone else in cold blood, it would be expedition.
Right. And that's what we want the people to understand. All the posturing we've seen from our elected officials here in the state of Minnesota, they keep begging and pleading with Donald Trump to get ICE out of Minnesota, but they won't use the authority that they have right now to arrest these executioners, to arrest these thugs and these gangs who are terrorizing our community and who call themselves ICE.
Do you feel like Drew Evans is doing a good job?
Drew Evans needs to be fired or to resign. He would not even put the BCA as the investigating criminal agency on the murder of Renee Good. So after we, as Black organizers, applied pressure and we demanded a locally led independent investigation, after the federal government said that they would not cooperate with the BCA, we said, this doesn't make sense. You can't trust the federal government anyway. Do your own investigation. And so then we had all these elected officials posturing before the cameras saying the same thing we said the day before. And then we had AG Keith Ellison and Mary Moriarty saying they would conduct an independent investigation. People thought the BCA would be heading that investigation. But you can look at their website right now and see that they're distancing themselves, saying that they will only collect and categorize information, but they're not leading the investigation. There is no law enforcement agency attached to the current investigation that is happening with regard to Renee Good. That is something that the governor could remedy. He could demand that Drew Evans, who is under his authority as the head of the BCA, conducts the investigation into the killing of Renee Good. And beyond that, what more do they need? They have witnesses, they have video. They have put many young Black men in prison with far less evidence. So what are they waiting on? They know exactly who did these crimes, and yet they have let them walk away scot-free. We get jailed and shackled, and Jonathan Ross gets federal protection in front of his home. We get jailed and shackled, and the two officers who killed Alex Preddy are whisked away out of the state of Minnesota, and we don't even know their names or their identities because they're able to wear masks. Those are thugs, gangs. They need to be held accountable.
Conspiracy violates some.
So as we conclude, we just want to remind the people of Minnesota that your voice matters.
Can I get mine?
Your whistles matter. You standing up for your neighbors matter. And you have a voice when it comes to elected officials. Do not let Governor Walz off the hook. Yes, his back is against the wall, but so is ours as a state. He needs to use his power and stop capitulating to Donald Trump and accepting crumbs. We will not accept crumbs. There have been executions of innocent citizens, and if we don't speak up and apply the pressure, there will be more. We cannot stand for it, Minnesota. So let's continue to rise. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's like, oh no, what's.
No, it's totally fine.
Well, I just see.
All right.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry about that.
No, you
Hey man, I just want to thank you. You came to my mosque and you did a video with my imam.